Good afternoon to you, T, and thank you very much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. So, what is the purpose of our talk today? So, I am here on Zoom to help you to create an effective PowerPoint. So, you might ask, why is this necessary? Well, I have learned in my line of work, it is very necessary in the work environment that we find ourselves today, as everything has gone very digital. So this is just a simple guide to create a PowerPoint. So when you are creating your PowerPoint, your first and most important thing is to define your objectives. You need to clearly outline the purpose of your presentation and what it is that you aim to achieve. When planning your presentation, this is a very important part so that you don't get all confused. You need to structure your content and organize your information in a logical flow with your main points, supporting details, and your conclusion. Remember that effective planning lays the foundation for a successful PowerPoint presentation. It ensures clear communication of your ideas, and it helps to do it in an engaging manner so that the audience also respects what you are trying to deliver. You also need to keep in mind that you need to know your audience. What I mean with this is, are you presenting to scientists? Are you presenting to tertiary students? Are you presenting to people working in the field, like the example I have there of the black mambas? Are you presenting to school children? By understanding who will be attending or who will be viewing your presentation, you will then also know what content to use in terms of what their interests are, what the topic is that they are busy dealing with, but also the knowledge level that you need to apply to your presentation. A simple example is, if you're going to present something to scientists, they're very factual. So they might not react to an image-rich presentation as much as they would react to a content, graphs, figures, etc. presentation. It is very important to structure your content. Organize your information in a logical flow with your main points, supporting details, and a conclusion. Then you get to the part of choosing a professional template. So a template, you are welcome to use templates. I normally don't use templates. I start from scratch and build it as is. But when you're starting off, it's a good idea to use a template. There are many templates on PowerPoint. But also remember, when you do pick a template, don't choose a template that overpowers your content. And I'll get to that in a bit. But choose something that suits your topic, but also is the right level of colorful and image rich, but also doesn't distract from what you are trying to present, which I said I'm coming to next. So when you want to choose a template on PowerPoint, you simply open PowerPoint and it'll open on the home screen. And you'll see here are options. So there's the blank option, which is the one that I opt for normally. But then you see here are some of the templates that have been used by me before. And then if you want to look at more templates, you can select the more templates item, or you can simply search for a specific template in the search bar, as you can see here. Then choose a template that complements your content. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to be doing a talk about agriculture and conservation, a dog would not be suited. I love dogs. If I could use dogs everywhere and anywhere, I would. But unfortunately, you can't. It doesn't make sense. So use something like the image on the right here, which is more relatable to a topic of agriculture. So with you guys, you're very lucky that you received specific animals to deal with. So that animal could be your first slide background and could feature a couple of other times on some of your other up and coming slides. Look for a template that prioritizes readability. So the one on the left is also very readable, but I feel that the text is just a little bit small and it kind of disappears under the heading, and it takes the focus away with all the extra lines and icons, etc. Where the example on the right says to you clearly it's a vision and a mission, what pertains to, and then the three options that you have. It's more clear. When you look at it, you can immediately see what it is that the presenter wants you to see. Then choose a template that's visually appealing, but not overwhelming. So if you look at the example on the left, for me, that's a bit overwhelming. There's just too much going on there. If there's color, there's many different colors being used, and it takes away from the title. You can't see, your focus isn't on the title. It's completely on the mess, if I can call it that, that's going on there, and not what is supposed to be on the main slide, the title that'll lead you to what it is. The one on the right, I'm kind of sticking to the agriculture theme here, is more indicative of what people can expect of your presentation, except for the fact that the title there is now farmer. You can also see in the background, it's an agriculture example or background. Also, select a template that maintains consistency. So when you look at the templates, look at something like the example on the right, where there's a consistency throughout the template. So you see in the corners here, the blotches are repeated every so often on either double or single on each screen. And the circular images with the pattern around it is also repeated. The color is repeated. Yeah, it's just the consistency to it. So you can actually see that this is the same presentation, where the one on the left is just a mess. You're kind of wondering, is it different presentations that are going to deal with something at the end, or so this is just a bit messy. So when you do choose your template, choose something that looks consistent and that you can work with. Also, try and choose a template with clean and modern designs. The one on the left, this brings in the topic again of know your audience. I would say that if it was a younger audience or perhaps a female audience, this would be a preferred one because it's colorful, it's got the little pictures in it. But if you're doing a professional presentation for example, for students like yourselves, when you do your presentations in August, then I would recommend that you use something clean and clear and cut like this. This is just an example or a blown up example of one of the previous ones where you can see the color that's being used and the image, the color is repeated and the text is big, bold, and you can see even in the paragraph area, it's quite clear. So this is a very good example of a professional slide. Then, as the slide just points out, try and keep it simple. Limit your number of slides. Now, this can be also a slight bit confusing because if you have too little slides, then first of all, your presentation is going to be finished too soon. Or if you speak too long to a slide, people could start thinking that the presentation isn't moving along, that it's frozen in certain areas. But if you have 57 slides, it could take you almost an hour to do the presentation. So you need to look at the time that you've got allocated to you, and then according to that, work on the amount of slides that you have. I normally say 1 slide per minute, but it depends on how fast you speak. and how much content is on each slide. If you have 15 slides and you have 30 minutes, I would say try and take some of the content on one of the slides and split it up into 2 slides. Try and keep to one main idea or concept per slide. If you're going to be talking about banded penguins, keep all or different types of penguins, rather, let's say that. Try and keep each species per slide. So the banded penguins on one slide, and then, or different sea mammals on other slides. Don't split it up, because then it's also quite confusing. Unless your presentation is only about banded penguins, then you can split them up, as I previously mentioned, and have I am struggling with this word, Magellanic penguin on one slide with his details or her details, the Humboldt penguin on the next one, Galapagos and African penguin on individual slides. But if you are talking about many sea animals, then try and keep species by species. Avoid clutter. Just because I'm saying that images are important for presentations, I'm not saying try and use as many as you can. So rather than just sticking a bunch of pictures over each other, and then it gets to a point where you can't actually really see what the slide is about or what it's trying to depict, rather remove extras and choose good quality images that depict what it is that you want to be seen there. So this one is other web feed animals. So yes, you can see there are quite a few web feed animals, but if you remove the 3 in the front here, those are sufficient enough to make it look, or to make you understand, okay, these are all web feed animals. Use visuals effectively. Incorporate relevant images. So when you're using images, and let's use the example that we have in the left-hand corner there, where the baboon is basically in that gentleman's car. So if your talk's going to be about baboons and the damage that they cause in certain areas, those will be relevant images of baboons in residential areas, not necessarily an image of a baboon somewhere in the Kruger National Park or in some or other bush. It needs to be in that area that you're working with. Other images that you can use are graphs, tables, as well as the one over here, which is almost like an infographic, but without the heavy detail, the wording and detail that is there. So those are also other options of images that you can use to best describe what you are trying to convey to your listener. Also ensure that visuals enhance understanding rather than distracting. So if you look at this slide, I think, and when I tested this as well, it was that the first thing that your eye caught were these 2, or this image on the right, where the hyenas are getting active. So that's not supposed to be the focus of your slide. Yes, reproductive systems could potentially be what you are talking about, and reproduction is what you're talking about, but you don't want to distract people from what it is that you actually want to say. So rather than using an image like this, try and find something like this on the tools that I'll discuss later that better depicts what it is that the message that you're trying to get across. And then use high quality images. There's no use in using an image that's blurred, or you can't really see what's going on, or you first have to focus and look at what is going on the image. Firstly, it distracts your viewer from what you are saying because they are so focused on the image. And also, it's just more appealing when you have high quality images. So this is a good example of an image that I took. These are 2 boomslang that took over a nest of a little woodpecker, and this is the morning when they left. And I took this photo through binoculars because my phone didn't have a proper zoom. But then one of my friends that was also at the camp, she had a proper camera. and you can see she took absolutely amazing pictures. So, and what a difference it makes to use a proper camera and a phone camera. Now, your first thing that you're saying to me is, well, I don't have a proper camera. I also only have my phone. So what do? This is where PowerPoint is, again, an amazing tool that you can use. So there is an option where you can go search for images on PowerPoint. So you simply click on Insert in that tab over there, and you click on Pictures, which will then open this drop-down menu, and you select Stock Images. Once you've clicked there, this box will pop up, and you can select any images there. You just simply show you a better version of it. You click on the search bar there, and you type in nature, or you type in whatever it is. When using this tool, you do need to be careful, because sometimes when you type in white rhino, it might not specifically give you a white rhino. It might just pop out any rhino. I know I've done searches, and then I've typed in white rhino, and then I've received images of a Javan rhino, which is a one that's in Asia. So just try as best as you can to fact check. Just maybe do a Google search of white rhino and see the difference between the lips of the white and the black rhino, and also the ears and that nose area of the white rhino that's much longer than the black rhino. And then the Javan rhino, I think, is a much smaller horn. So just when you do search for images here, just be sure that it's factually correct when you put it into your presentation, especially if you are focused on a specific animal. There are other tools you can use as well. You can use the icons, cut out people, stickers, videos, illustrations, and cartoon people. I use the icons function as well when I do bullet points, and I will show you an example of that later. Another fun tool that there is on PowerPoint, it depends on which version you have, but I know that you guys have the most recent, or you should have the most recent one at the university, is the 3D images. So how wonderful is this? You've got the movement here, so you can explain all of these cycles, and it is actually just moving right in front of you. So this you can find under, again, you go under Insert, you go to 3D models, and then you select stock 3D models. Don't select this device, because then it'll just open your folders on your computer, unless you have 3D designs on your computer. By all means, use that. But you go to the stock models, and then it'll open up a screen where there are various things you can choose from. Again, just make sure that you fact check yourself. I know that there's a rhino on there, and we still are not sure if it's a black, white, or Javan rhino, because it's got some of the qualities of each of them. So just fact check yourself. Don't just use a 3D model for the sake of using a 3D model. You can then, once you've inserted the model and you click on it, you can go click on 3D model, which will open up on this tab bar here, and you can play around with it. You can animate it differently, you can move it around, you can twist it so that you could look at it from the bottom, from the top. So there's various ways of depicting these models. Then allow white space around your visuals to avoid clutter. I'm not saying put one picture per page and then have the white around it, but have these gaps between the images. This just allows your viewer to have a softer experience when looking at your presentations. Instead of having a big cluttery photo area, they at least have some space to know this is the one photo, this is the next photo, and this is the next photo. Alternatively, if you've got a lot of photos and you want them all on that slide, put a frame around it, because then it just singles out that photo and puts the photo on each, puts the focus on each photo individually. So like I mentioned earlier, I use the little icons. So these are stickers actually. And where possible, if you don't have to use text, you can use visuals, or you can use a visual and just a little bit of text with it. instead of having very text-heavy slides. So this is just a very, very simple example where instead of just having bullet points where you have lion, hyena, elephant, and crocodile, you can do it like this, where you have the cutout stickers of these animals, and then accompanying that is obviously the text that you would have originally had. But it just makes it look a little bit more interesting. So now we get to another fun part, is with engaging with fonts and colors. So this is an example of a presentation that I did for Dr. Kotze Kapehi. It was a brilliant talk. Please go have a look at it on our ShareScreen Africa website. And it was obviously about climate change. So the intro slide, this is the intro slide. It was a great photo that he actually sent to me, and I thought I'm going to keep using it, but now I needed to find colors that work with it, because you need what's the word? You need complementary colors that work with your images that you're using. I would say, and this is just me speaking as not an expert on colors, but if you're going to have these type of colors, I wouldn't use a red or a pink. So I took this image, I saved it, and I went to the following website, which I will share with you as well. This is Color Adobe. So you simply go to this page, you enter the URL into the URL bar, and you press enter, which it'll then take you to this page, and there will be an option to load an image. And then you load the image, and as soon as that image comes up, it'll point in different areas where it sees colors that you could potentially then use for your text or even a background. So this could be a lovely color for a background. Instead of having the white and the glare, you can just have this type of background or this type of background, and you can also play with it. If you look at the presentation that Dr. Kapehi did, you'll see that I did play a little bit with the background in terms of blocks for text instead of just a plain background. And on this side, you can also play around with it a little bit. So if you want it colorful, then it gives you brighter colors. If you go bright, then it gives you even brighter colors. Muted is just the normal one. Deep will be your darker colors, and then dark will be even darker. And then none is just what it will select on its own. So once you have selected, or if you've seen your colors, you'll see at the bottom here is a code. So it's normally a hashtag code, and that, well, I simple term it by calling it a color code. So now you're asking, how do I take this color and put it into PowerPoint? So you simply highlight this area here where the hashtag is, and you go back to your PowerPoint, and you have your text then hopefully already there, and you go to your font color section, and you click on that little drop down arrow, and you'll see there's an option for more colors, and you click on more colors. Once you've clicked on more colors, the screen will pop up, and you go to custom. So there's two tabs there, standard and custom. So you go to custom, and at the bottom there where it says hex, that's where you paste or type in the hashtag number or color code that you got from that Adobe website. And then you'll see here that color will appear. So that was the current, or the color that you had on your PowerPoint at the time. And this is the new color. You simply say select, and it'll add it as part of your color palette on PowerPoint. When you select fonts and colors, you need to make sure that you select readable fonts. Also try and limit your font styles, and try and emphasize what's important. So by limiting your font styles, I mean use maximum 2 different font styles in your presentation, like I've done with this one as well. So here is one type of font, and then here is a different type of font. As soon as you start going crazy with fonts, I know there's quite a few very cool fonts on PowerPoint, but as soon as you start going crazy with the fonts, it becomes a bit messy. So it's distracting to the eye as well. And for instance, this second point here, I can almost not read what that says. So if you're gonna do a beautiful letter to someone or write, something like that, then this is a beautiful font. But if you're wanting to present in a professional manner, one of the other fonts would be better. This Wind Patterns one is also, I like it a lot, but it's also perhaps not suited for a professional environment. Also, we just did the color chart. So try and limit the use of colors, different colors for each slide. Stick to your colors that you've chosen. If you've chosen this type of green and this type of gray, stick to that type of green and that type of gray. Keep your headings all the one type of green and your text parts all the one type of gray. I'm just using green and gray as examples, but I mean, whatever colors that you choose, try and also just stick to 2 different colors. Pushing it to 3 if you really have something that you really want to highlight in a red or a bright yellow. Here is a good example of that. Firstly, I've used those little icons again, which gives you an idea of what each paragraph deals with. And then I've bolded the first part of the sentence because I wanted people to know this is about greenhouse gases, this is about deforestation, and this is methane and nitrous oxide emissions and natural causes. But I wanted to highlight something else as well. So I just made it bold and green. So the rest of the text is gray, and the extra highlighted text is not only bold, but green as well. So these are ways that you can play with your text and your fonts in terms of your bold, italic, underlined, etc. Here's where you find that. So when you want to enter a text box onto a slide, you go to Insert. Insert is where you find many of the fun tools, and you say text box, and you click on the slide where you want the text box, and you start typing. After you've clicked it and selected it and put it on the area that you wanted on the slide, once you've typed it, you can move that box around. It doesn't mean that that is the set space for it. You can move that box around, but that's just a starting point for you. Then to change the font and the size and the color or the style, you simply go into this area. So here you can change your fonts. Here you change your side. These are your quick click tools to change your size of your font. There's your bold, underline, italic and underline, and then your shade. Here you can make the space between your letters a bit bigger. If you're choosing a font that seems a little tight, you can even move the space there a little bit. Here's where you highlight, like you would highlight on a page, and then that is the color of your font that you can change. You can also, on this side, do your alignment and your paragraphs. So if you've got some bullet points, there you bullet it, you can number it as well, move around your paragraphs, and then also decide if you want it left, center, or right. Okay, now we get to transitions and animations. So transitions and animations are fun. It puts a little bit of a life into your presentation, but transitions can also, and animations can also be overused. So let's get into that. So when you use animations and transitions, use it sparingly. Don't just use it for the sake of using it. Choose a subtle and professional transition. So I don't know if you've noticed on my presentation, but I am using the morph transition, which kind of makes it fade out and then go to a next slide. If there are images on one slide that are repeated on the next slide, or if there's an image that fits into another image on a slide, it morphs the two into each other. So that's a transition that I often use. Like I said, don't use animations for the sake of using animations. So I'll have an example of the transitions and just using them for the sake of using them, as well as the animations just in a bit. Pay attention to your timings. So sometimes these animations take forever to come in. So you get ones that are stoopy and it goes up and down and twirls, and then the wording lands. It kind of distracts from what you are saying. And also it takes too much time, which is time that you can use to present. And then preview before you start presenting. Sometimes you select words individually, and then when you do it live in front of the audience, you realize, oh no, the fourth bullet point is coming in before the second bullet point, etc. So that's just preview your stuff before you actually go present it live. So this is an example of just using animations for the sake of using animations. So this one is, it's a long one. Then you've got this one here, it bounces and it's got the little moving hand. This one twirls. And so some of these are, if you're making an advertisement, for example, this one is great because it goes, it's in your face. But for a slide with a bunch of bullet points, that won't work. It'll just at a point start hurting the viewer's eyes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, with the transition, if you have an image or an icon or a logo that's repeated, here you'll see the ShareScreen Africa logo, and I've got the morph transition on. So there we go. Then the ShareScreen Africa just morphs into it. Some other examples of transitions is this one, which is also acceptable because it's quick and smooth. But then you have this one. The first time it's very cool, but I've sat through a presentation where every slide turned like that, and it actually makes you a little bit nauseous at a point where you kind of want to go, oh, just get to the next slide. It doesn't need to swirl around like a box. And then you've got this one as well, which is, it takes time. So to get from one slide to the other, it really takes time. And sometimes not everyone's connection or internet connection is as strong as yours. So for them, it won't have that effect that it has for you on your computer. So for them, it might just kind of freeze, end up with nothing, and then all of a sudden they see the leopard. So also keep connectivity in mind when you do select your transition. Here's just another one, which is also, I think, a little bit too busy. Here is where you can find the transitions. So on the tabs at the top here, you go to transition, and there you can see the different transitions that you can get. As they say here, subtle. So these are the ones that I normally play with. I don't even go much to the right just because it becomes a little bit too much. Here's how you do animations. So you simply click on, again, at the top tabs here, right next to transitions is animations. And here you can select the various animations that you have. Please note that the ones in red, although they look very pretty with their red, they're exit animations, which means your words will be there. And if you click on your mouse or your left or right button, whichever you use to go to a next slide, it'll take the text away, which is, you know, at a different advanced level if you want text to appear and then go away again. But that's for another talk. Okay, I'm just going to go through infographics as well. So this is a very good example of an infographic. It's got its image, got the information that you want, and it's got what it is that you are looking at. So this is a very simplified way of explaining what an infographic is, but I'll get into it a little bit more now. So we did a series for the Botswana International University of Science and Technology in the beginning of the year. And there were 3 speakers, and each of the groups in the class got a topic or a presenter to do an infographic about, or a presenter's talk to do an infographic about. Just like you guys are doing now for Dr. Ogilvy, you have to do the presentation and the infographic. So what they did on the day, Dr. Mazabedi told them each what their topic is, and what they needed to create. So the students did it on paper, and then they sent it to me, and I created something for them as an example. So it's very important that when you do your infographic to start on paper, plot it out, just like with your presentation. Start planning it first. Make sure you know what you want to go where. It's going to take you longer when you sit and play around with it on PowerPoint to get all the elements together than it is to draw it on a paper. On a paper, you could draw it, and then you see, okay, that doesn't work. You scratch it out and you move it somewhere else, or you start on a new paper. Where if you start building it on PowerPoint, there's no structure to it. It'll take you forever to start building it. So as you can see, they gave me this, and then I created this for the one piece of paper, and this for the other one. Another example of what they sent me. You can see they planned it out. They made corrections where they needed to make corrections. They knew exactly where they wanted to put it, what they wanted to put where. And on this one, you can see they ran out of stuff, but at least the idea was there, and I could put it together then for them in a different way. You can see this is also a different way of doing an infographic rather than the scene that I set on this infographic. Made it more structured on this infographic. And then the third example was group 3, and they simplified it or did it in an even more different way than the others did it, with less images and more of almost a mind map. And then I did this for them. Okay, I hope that you learned a lot today and that you will be able to use this video or this information that I gave to you now to build effective PowerPoints for your presentations. Like I said, it's fun to work with PowerPoint, and I encourage you guys to play around on it and get to know the tool, because it's a really, really fun tool. Okay, now we can get over to questions and answers. Thank you so much.